Hey everyone, it's Ellis, and this is the patch 12.6 notes rundown. This is also not a pre-recorded version, and what I mean by that is that I am just running through this myself manually on the site. There's no editing, and it's going to go straight out up to YouTube. This is, again, because I didn't get the notes this week from Riot, so there was no way to make anything in advance, so I'm making this right now. It is 2:45 p.m. I believe the notes have already been out for like 10 hours or something like that, so I don't know if there's been any adjustments to them. I would assume that they would already be updated if Riot was going to go back and implement anything, so it's not the case. We're going to go into the highlights, and what are we going to see? We're going to see pretty much the same thing that we saw in the preview. If you guys didn't see my reaction to the preview, it's on the highlights channel that I have. And basically, I mean, the general consensus is this is just it's almost a non-factor patch. The biggest thing on it, though, is the Hecarim change, because Hecarim has become pretty much a mainstay in competitive in a lot of areas right now. And outside of the Hecarim thing, they simultaneously will nerf Tryndamere and then buff one of his counters, which is the Jax, and then Azir just gets a lot more tanky, I guess. So these are the things that we're moving into. So Azir health growth stat, it is going to go up by 13 HP per level. This just makes him a lot tankier, makes him a lot better versus the archetype that he wants to go up against, and it just makes him harder to dive. It makes him a lot harder to poke out inside of the early laning phases, and Azir already has had a pretty dominant laning phase, and so for him to just be getting an extra spell cast worth of HP or something in early laning is actually quite big in a lot of his matchups, and it just further reinforces his ability to have like lane dominance and everything else, but then it also buffs him up and makes him a lot beefier for mid game. This shouldn't realistically change anything inside of him for solo queue, but for competitive, this actually does affect a lot of his matchups. Darius, R base damage is increased, so R Noxian Guillotine is obviously going up. So I already commented that I feel like this can maybe influence inside of obviously solo queue, can equate to some early solo kills that can happen inside of, you know, the first six levels or something of laning phase, maybe a little bit after that, and maybe that can, you know, converts to a win rate increase buff. But this is not the thing that's gating Darius from returning to competitive, because obviously Darius has very scary all-in potential. Pro players are aware of how to utilize it, they're aware of how to space it and all the other stuff, and having the all-in potential just be there a little bit easier gated to his R, not really affecting him on a competitive standpoint. And so for solo queue, it definitely will do something for Darius players, but other than that, not too much. Hecarim, Q and E base damage decreased late. Tankerim is taking over pro again, so we're nerfing the base damage on some of his abilities to ensure fairer gameplay. So the base damage is going to go from 60 to 200 plus 85% bonus AD to 60 to 180 plus 85% of the bonus AD. So obviously, if you are building Trinity Force and you're building all the other items, etc., it's not going to be as hit as if you're just building the absolutely dog-awful itemization, which is just pure tank. And then E Devastating Charge is also taking a hit. It's going to lose 20 base, 55 bonus AD, and maximum total damage is going to lose 40 base, plus 110% bonus AD is going to stay the same. So in this regard, he is just outright losing damage on his E with pretty much, I mean, there's nothing really, you know, to recover it. Realistically, I think even if he wants to go for his main build, I mean, it is just a lot of damage loss going on to his E. The Q, I don't think, is as necessarily harmed, again, if you are doing the AD variations, but I think that the E-based damage is definitely going to be felt a lot more. But no matter what, I do think that this probably does impact his clears as well, and it probably does, I mean, it will move Hecarim down, you know, a peg. Alawi. So this I don't think was actually on the 12.6, and as someone that actually has played Alawi quite a lot, both in solo queue and even inside of like scrims and other stuff, I can feel like reading this, I mean, we'll see. Our Leap of Faith now casts with Alawi facing towards your cursor, allowing for more favorable tentacle spawn locations. This is definitely nice on the all-ins and immediately after you cast the E. That's very nice. Bug fixes: when Alawi attacks a vessel with Empower W, Harsh Lesson, nearby inactive tentacles will now slam her target as soon as they become active. Short delay removed. This is actually really big for some combos that she does do, so that is a nice little bug fix. Spell queuing has been added to W, Harsh Lesson, and R Leap of Faith. You can now buffer other abilities while casting them. This is actually something I talked about while playing her a lot on stream, was that it felt like if she had something like this, it would actually make a lot of 1v2s, 1v3s, 2v2s, etc. a lot smoother for her, but that, you know, it's not entirely necessary for her to have them. W// and visual indicators have been fixed and will show the correct range of her empowered basic attack. That's quality of life. Tentacles can no longer spawn on either team's base gates on Summoner's Rift. That's fine. Vessels no longer contribute to Alawi's creep score when they expire or are destroyed. Okay, that's fine. Q, Tentacle Smash, and E-Test the Spirit will now be visible to nearby enemy champions when they cast from Fog of War. So this is obviously just a nerf. You used to be able to camp inside of a brush. You used to be able to E the target, and then the target would still walk in range, and then in doing so, you can then use Leap of Faith, and you can get a lot more value. Obviously now, if you cast Test, you have to wait now to cast Test of Spirit at short range. If you want to still do that combo, you can no longer just cast it at like medium length or maximum length. Anyways, they are just quality of life changes. I think Alawi is actually in a really good spot right now. I do think that her best lane is mid for competitive. I think that you still can pick her in mid lane. She does have different like runes and itemizations depending on who she's going up against, but I do think that mid is her best lane because of tentacle placement is a lot better in mid lane than it is in top lane, as long as you learn how to place her tentacles and her wave clear patterns and everything else. The changes that have happened to the items, both the Trinity Force and Divine, were very good for her, and so I think in that regard it is pretty good. Jax, base health increased. W base damage increased as well. So his base stat is just going up about an auto attack, you know, level 1. And then W and power damage is just up as well. They're just upping the base damage by 10. Not the end of the world, but it does definitely open up a little bit more lethal threshold for Jax, who is a jouster. And what I mean by that is Jax, generally, the matchups that he plays against, with his Counter-Strike, Jax is typically the champion that's going to get to deal his damage first in a lot of cases, unless like certain champions have skill buffers or something where they can cast an ability while stunned and they can still reciprocate damage. Jax generally likes both targets to be really low because he just has a better way at getting his damage out first, without the opponents being able to respond. This is very akin to like something like Fizz or something, where Fizz likes gameplay like that too. Nidalee. Human W cost decreased, E mana cost decreased late, and cast range increased. Cougar W damage radius increased, okay? Human form Nidalee is mana-hungry Huntress. Well, this actually isn't true. So the thing is that this is just a buff to mostly solo queue, and it's only really a buff, I think, to mostly low MMR. Nidalee players that can't manage their mana costs at all. I don't think that one pro player has ever voiced concern with Nidalee's mana inside of competitive, because I just don't think it's real. AoE damage radius, I think it was very, very, very luxurious. I don't know. I feel like these changes, if anything, are actually buffs to top lane Nidalee, which I don't think is even a real version of Nidalee. So it's just almost not worth commenting on. I just want to remind everyone that these are the changes that we've read through so far, and remember that there was a really big deal about how you know, they were going on break for a month, and these are the changes that we're getting before, these are the changes that we're getting immediately after this ends up ending. So I'm not really feeling too good about these patch changes. Rengar, passive adjustments to ferocity, leaps, and bone tooth necklace. Okay, so this I already commented on a lot in the highlights video. Basically, I do think that for top lane Rengar, I think that the new change to Bullish Right can actually make an impact on the brushes, where he ends up leaping or something, if you're fighting someone inside of the brush. I think that the passive change to Unseen Predator, you know, it really is all like somewhat quality of life. It doesn't change Rengar's issues with, you know, why he's not good or something. Arthur of the Hunt now not only grants True Sight, but also grants Normal Vision, 100 units around the nearest enemy. I think this just allows you to know, you know, who's hugging them, or, you know, what else is possibly around them. These are all pretty luxurious. Now, the thing is that Rengar's Q power basic attack is now always a critical strike instead of a regular critical strike damage. The thing that makes me curious is, now do we see critical strike versions of Rengar start just being built or something? I don't know. I do know there are some of the Korean Rengar one tricks that already do go Kraken Slayer and things of that nature, and so obviously in that regard, this is going to be a pretty big buff. If someone can actually maybe make a way to make top lane Rengar with crit end up working or something, then I think it's going to be fine. I think realistically, though, outside of that, for jungle, crit builds are way too expensive for junglers to be able to afford, and so I think the savagery change there is just not there. Also, the base levels that junglers will end up having compared to top laners is just not there. So I think in that regard, it's pretty much just what's happening to Rengar. Tryndamere, E cooldown reduction per crit decreased, R cooldown increased. Spinning Slash, so 1 second to 0.75, 1.5 against champions, 2 versus champions. So this just means that Tryndamere is all in when he goes for, you know, the lottery, the Tryndamere Lotto that he likes to play with people. It is harder for him to get the crits. And I will say that there are actually a lot of kills in competitive and in solo queue that would not have happened if these cooldowns were this way. So that out the gate, there is a lot of things that have already happened in people's minds that would not have happened had these changes been there. Does that mean Tryndamere can't play around them, or that it's impossible for him to just, you know his foresight a little bit better in light of these adjustments? And I think the answer is that, you know, he can. I think that it's totally fine. Our Undying Rage, so it gets 20 seconds slapped on it, and this is a measurement that Riot's trying to do because Tryndamere only puts 1 point in R. My initial suggestion was not to necessarily attack the cooldown, but make his R go from 3, 4, 5 points. This would actually force him to put points in it in order to gain access to the full 5 seconds of Undying Rage. Instead, the approach that they're trying to do is just add 20 seconds to it at rank 1. This means that he'll have it up less frequently inside of the side lanes when, you know, you're split pushing against him in mid game, or even like in laning phase or something. If he's ahead of you, he's going to have it up basically 1 wave less is one of the ways that you can actually end up looking at it. Do I think that's the end of the world? No. I think that Tryndamere players will just have to learn how to play around these changes, and then they're going to be fine. But obviously, you can look at Tryndamere players that stream him a lot. I think Nemesis is probably the best person to look at in terms of Tryndamere POV. Maybe he will actually just have a totally different stance because he plays the ever-loving crap out of Tryndamere and would know a lot more on this topic. So, items, Immortal Shield Bow. So lifesteal is going down by 2%, and then shield amount is going up. Now, I believe that the shield amount is still down from where it used to be a long time ago. Powers each of your legendary abilities with 5 bonus AD and 50 bonus health to 5 bonus AD and 70 health, so it just does make people tankier. But not necessarily if they're, you know, they're not doing a whole bunch of like lifesteal or, you know, other stuff. But ultimately, this is still going to be a math equation on is the HP more valuable than the, you know, lifesteal that you would be doing. Blade of the Rune King lifesteal is going down by 2%. It really is crying. And I think that all of these changes are just totally fine. I don't think that there's anything really bad. Ravenous Hunter is removed. Curse everyone that was actually unironically taking this rune for the past however long, since it was turbo nerfed a really long time ago, and people still claiming that this was a good rune. This was a terrible rune, and you should feel bad for having taken it. Treasure Hunter gains 70 gold when you claim a bounty hunter stack. This bounty is increased by 20 gold for each bounty hunter stack. So basically, this is a very solo QE buff where it helps you snowball. The thing is that champions that have, like, you know, snowbally champion. So there's a thing, right? Like, I feel like a lot of people will view this as being like really good on a jungler, right? Like this is a really good rune on a jungler or something because it helps them snowball. Okay, so immediately one of the things that comes to mind is also like stealth champions. I feel like stealth champions immediately come to mind when you're talking about this. Now, there are certain stealth champions that are gated at one item, and what I mean by that is that their one item spike is absolutely massive, and their curve into the second one not so much. Or the curve into the second one takes so long anyway that even with Treasure Hunter, you're not necessarily getting it considerably faster. So an example of this would be AP Twitch. AP Twitch goes Nashor's Tooth, right? It is, you know, somewhat difficult to get to Nashor's Tooth. Now, you could view Treasure Hunter as a means to accelerate towards Nashor's Tooth and then get that one item spike a little bit faster. What you end up giving up is Relentless Hunter, which is absolutely massive when you're running around the map. That is in unfathomable like amount of value that rune can actually give you if you accumulate a lot of stacks of it early on, allowing you to forego boot purchases because you just have so much MS. So, you know, Shaco is another jungler that comes to mind, really likes the one item, two item as he's curving into it. Chaco usually at that point has already influenced the game by the time he already has the one item, right, as he's curving in. I think Evelynn might be a champion that you could argue, Treasure Hunter, while she's curving into her second item, there's value there. I think Fiddlestick's another one, but again, Fiddlesticks, he really wants Ultimate Hunter. So Treasure Hunter's in this, like, really weird spot where I feel like a lot of champions that would benefit from it or could reliably make use of it in the sense that they are trying to get all 5 stacks, etc., relatively early, they just value other runes in that slot, whether it be Relentless or whether it be Ultimate, typically. I do think that, like, Ingenious Hunter or something, you might be able to swap this one out now, but again, you have to be in the domination tree to justify taking this rune, and then you have to really, really not care about Relentless Hunter nor Ultimate Hunter, and then at which point Treasure Hunter will most likely end up swapping in. Now, I do think that Fizz falls into that category because Fizz does take Electrocute. So I think Fizz could do something like take Treasure Hunter. That just makes it so that Fizz hits the items a little bit faster. I do think that, if you go Electrocute on Katarina or something like that, then this could definitely actually be pretty good, because I don't think Katarina necessarily cares about Ultimate Hunter, doesn't necessarily care about Relentless Hunter. I mean, she could care about it, but I don't think it's the end of the world if she doesn't have it, because sometimes she even does have other runes. I think other champions that are just trying to come to the top of my head. I'm trying to think of, like, Hail of Blade users or something. So, like, you have Pyke, right? You have Pyke, Hail of Blades with Treasure Hunter. Pyke already gets an obscene amount of gold, and Relentless Hunter on Pyke when he's running around stealthed. Again, I think that it's probably more practical that you value the movement speed than you actually value this minuscule amount of gold early on. So I think it's really, really, really hard. I think even for junglers like Xin Zhao or something, or like, Electrocute Graves, you're just going to want the Relentless Hunter as you're traversing the map, and I think that's just going to remain a constant. Fleet Footwork. Healing upon fully energized attack is just going to go down by 10% bonus AD and 10% AP. So this is just a nerf to a couple of champions, not the end of the world. Legend Bloodline. After reaching maximum Bloodline attacks, your health increases by 100. So now you only get 6% lifesteal at 15 stacks as opposed to 9%. So I do think that, like, Bloodthirster Graves has been tagged with some of these changes, although he does have a little bit more HP now. Inside of his shield. I think that, like, Callista or something, another champion that has been tagged by this. I think that top lane Aphelios or something, another champion that's been tagged. And, yeah, Mythic Content Overhaul. Phase 1 of the Mythic Content Overhaul has arrived. There are details as well as a couple of changes our original foundation. So, basically, Gemstones and Prestige Points are combining into a single new currency that never expires, Mythic Essence. ME for short. Can be attained anywhere with Gemstone or Prestige Points were previously earned. You can spend Mythic Essence in the Mythic Shop for special skins, accessories, and more. That's really cool. All Gemstones and Pro inventories are automatically converted to 10 Mythic Essence. Prestige Points 2020 have expired and were removed from the inventories on March 24th, 2022. Okay. All players will receive a one-time mission on March 31st, 2022 that rewards 10 Mythic Essence to celebrate the launch of the system. This mission will expire on May 2nd, 2022. Okay. So that's fine. Masterwork drop rates, Mythic Essence drop rates. Okay, that's all fine. Mythic Shop. The new Mythic Shop features content that rotates on a regular basis, including the return of past prestige skins. Excellent. I am all for stuff like this. I'm all for things of this nature. Obviously, I'm not going to be one to complain about Riot giving out things that I think can just be earned for free, unless I'm misunderstanding something. So they're just, Phase 2 update, Hex Tech Rentals, Freylord Clash, Team Formation, second, okay, bug fixes, quality of life, and then we got the skins. Okay, so all in all, this patch does not actually do anything for competitive, again, and we are living in the same hell of a meta. If you didn't actually see the comments that I made on the highlights channel, I basically said that it is very, very, very apparent at this point that the pro meta and pretty much everything else is not going to change, and I think that Riot needs to, unironically, just do more placebo buffs, or even like placebo nerfs or something. And what I mean by those is like nerfs that make people perceive something is actually more serious than it is. Likewise, I think placebo buffs. I think that just having walls of those would actually be better at this point than anything that we're currently getting, because everything that we're currently getting is extremely frustrating. Now, I do say this in the same light that I do simultaneously acknowledge that I think that the Balance team has done a fantastic job, and the game is the most balanced it has ever been. And what I mean by that is that I think that pro play and, Heimamar, etc., is not a representation of actually the strongest champions that exist in the game right now. I think that a lot of champions are actually viable in certain conditions and in certain spots, depending on your proficiency with the champion and your willingness to pick it in certain spots and your willingness to be flexible in certain matchups and, get certain upside inside of team drafts and all this other stuff. I think that in that regard, League of Legends is in a very, very balanced state. However, we're not seeing that reflected inside of pro play. So with that being said, I think Riot probably should take more action with patches. Now, I saw a lot of people complaining that LCS playoffs are being played on 12.6 and they're only going to get to play, 2 or 3 days on the patch. Stop. Let's stop pretending. What are you going to do? You're going to add a Azir to your champion pool because he got a little bit more HP? Sounds like you have a really bad reason for playing Azir. Tryndamere, most people were... Tryndamere was, getting picked often, but, not to the point where, you can't pick him in spots where he's still good given these nerfs. And then, yeah, so what? You drop Hecarim. You weren't even playing Hecarim until a few weeks ago. It doesn't even matter, man. There's so many better champions. Let's stop complaining that this patch is somehow going to affect you for playoffs. It's not. It's not. It's not going to do anything. You're not going to have to play around Treasure Hunter. You're not going to have to play around Aurelia, missing 2% lifesteal on full build. These things are just not real. Now, the one thing that I do say, however, is that maybe for Team Liquid, maybe the Rengar changes with Whippo up there in top lane, maybe that actually is kind of cool. Maybe that is kind of cool, but that's specific to TL. But you know what? Hey, it's because it's Whippo, and he doesn't limit himself to 3 champions on rotation. So, 99% of the pro player base. So, that is pretty much it. We are going to go into the skins. So, let's take a look at the skins. We have not actually gotten to do skin review in a while, and obviously I already commented on the Freylord Clash patron. It'll be updated hopefully in 2 days or something. It'll be posted, but do not expect a lot of changes from the last patches because the changes here are a joke. I might actually have 2 changes that I can think of that I would even modify the tier list for. So, but the Clash list will get updated. The same as the solo queue list, so that'll be there. The Riven Skin, I don't know really what to think about it. This looks like she's Master Yi's daughter at this point. I don't know what all these these things are going on. This gives me a Mega Man kind of vibe almost. And then what is going on here? What is even happening with this skin? Where are they? Honestly, the artwork here does look really pretty. This looks like honestly, this kind of looks like some sort of a... This looks like a Bant land or something in Magic the Gathering in the background. I'll be totally honest and transparent with you. Anime Vayne, no thank you. It literally looks like... You know what it looks like? It looks like if one of those women that are 60 or 70 years old that still work the strip in Vegas. You know what I'm talking about. You know the ones that look totally decked out like they're going to a circus or something like that, but they're actually still pros. It looks like if they somehow found a time machine and went back in time, they would still opt to dress like this and think that it looks sexy or something, and I just don't think that's the case. But anyways, so Jinx. So I really like the thing that Riot is remaining consistent here. Jinx's eyes are supposed to always make her look crazy, which is why she does not have her eyes open in almost any of the skins, because they want the skins to just appear to be very good looking and all this other stuff, but Jinx is supposed to remain crazy. Saw that thread on Reddit. Kudos to that guy that ended up making that thread. I think that it is pretty good. Anima Prestige. So let's talk about grown-up Annie. So if you took a League of Legends player and you introduced them to the roster, you had them play Annie for the first time, and then you fast-forwarded and showed them this splash art, they would have just thought that Annie became a teenager. We're actually all living in Dragon Ball Z right now, and it does look like Gohan has grown up into Teen Gohan or something like that. Or Goten, whatever you want to call it, and that's what's going on here. This skin, I think, is well-timed. This gives, like, Elden Ring kind of vibes. This is an absolutely sick skin. I do think that the face looks a little bit like Jhin. I understand that this is a Pike skin, but there's something about this that just kind of looks like Jhin. It looks like Darkstar Jhin in terms of, you know, coloring and stuff, but I love the wings. I love the effects on it. I love how everything looks here, to be completely honest. It gives a very Elden Ring-y kind of vibe, but that's pretty much it for a 12.6, and with this being 12.6, that means this is the playoffs patch, which means that 12.7 will be hopefully the next competitive patch anyway, and we have no idea what to expect for MSI, but I really hope that Riot does what they did last year with Worlds, where they drop a tactical explosive, okay, on the meta, which is what they attempted to do last year before Worlds, before all teams ended up regressing and then still just cycling the same champions anyway. So that is it, and I hope you guys enjoyed the rundown, and I will see you guys all later. Bye-bye.